Sitaram, welcome to SWA DHARMA, carried exclusively on Samkhya TV on Thursdays between 6:30 p.m. and 7 p.m. SWA DHARMA, where we sit in satsang, where at times we look at the writings of the sages and saints, and this week's program and the following couple of weeks' programs will be focused on the Holy Ramayan written by Sant Tulsidas. So we hope to give an overview of the text, if that can ever be done, but to give a working knowledge of the 7 chapters, by extension the 7 kandas of the Ramayan. So Ramayan is really founded on 13 questions posed by Mother Parvati to Bhagwan Shiva. And this occurs in the first, very early on in the first chapter of Ramayan, the first kand of Ramayan, Bal Kand. And the answers to these questions are spread over the 7 chapters, again, or 7 kandas, and this constitutes Ramayan. The answers are proffered by Bhagwan Shiva as he discoursed to Mother Parvati. At times, Tulsidas ji wrote Kagbhushundi ji to Garud Maharaj. Garud Maharaj, the king of the birds, was actually the medium representing the sort of questions, concerns we would have. And fourth, and finally, but by no means least, the wise sage Yagyavalk, again to Bharadwaj, who represented our concerns. And the entire text is premised on the information provided by Bhagwan Shiva. So we begin looking at the method used by Mother Parvati as she hoped to evoke the answers from Bhagwan Shiva. We say hope to evoke because in asking questions, the questions fall into 4 categories, and 3 of those categories, the first 3 listed here, may not necessarily elicit an answer from the narrator. And we can see for what reasons. The first type of question, Vivadartha, where the question is asked just to create argument and disrupt. Like sometimes we have a meeting, irrelevant questions are asked, that causes disruption, and some people unfortunately are given to such type of questions. Such type of questions does not necessarily produce answers that we are looking for, beneficial answers. The second type of question, Parikshartha, where it is those questions are just asked to test the ability of the narrator or of the speaker. The third type of question, where one has the answer but asks the question probably to show up the narrator or the orator and to show more so the audience that he or she is privy to the answer. And the fourth type of questions is the one that genuinely produces the answers that are beneficial to the world. And it is this type of question Mother Parvati asked Bhagwan Shiva. Mind you, she didn't have any doubt, but she expressed the doubts that we have, the concerns that we have. Being a true mother, she represented those concerns into the capable hands of Bhagwan Shiva, and that type of question is known as Sandeha Nivrityartha, where, as we say, genuine concerns are expressed. We didn't spend too much time on that because we had dealt with that in more detail previously. So we move into the very first question posed by Mother Parvati. That question is, Prathama Sokaran Kahu Vichari, Nirguna Braham Sagun Bapudhari. She says, Prabhu, Bhagwan Shiva, why is it, Prathama, the first question, why is it the Nirgun form of God, the unmanifest form of God, had to take form, Sagun? Why he couldn't just stay in his heavenly abode in upper varg, wave his magic wand and rectify all that need to be rectified on earth and in the whole universe? Why that couldn't happen? So this being the first question, we extrapolate from parts of Ramayan to give a view of substance which represents the answer or the core to the answer to her question. Of course, throughout the kandas they are elaborated upon, but in Bal Kand we look at this doha. Vipr dhenu srasanta hita lin hamunuj avatar nija ichha nirmittanu maya gun gopar. That is why God takes avatar. He takes avatar for the sake of the Vipra, the twice-born Brahman, the one not who only is learned, but practices what he preaches. He is conversant with the tenets of Sanatana Dharma. He had studied, would have studied at the feet of a guru. And more importantly is that he is supposed to be the custodian of knowledge. And hence, for his sake, God manifests himself from time to time. Secondly, for the sake of the cows, because the cows is a symbolic in Hinduism. That too we had discussed in some detail. So if one has to propagate symbolism in Sanatana Dharma, by extension, one is really anchoring Sanatana Dharma where these symbols are concerned. And that's the reason why Bhagwan from time to time comes to protect the cows. Thirdly, so for the sake of the devatas, remember, in Sanatana Dharma, it is one God, manifest in finite forms, the infinite manifest in finite forms, for our better understanding, for how we can conceptualize or attempt to conceptualize He who is infinite. That is why we have those manifestations. Sanatana Dharma, Hinduism doesn't have many gods. It's one God. And so the male and female aspects are the finite forms. And for the sake of these representatives of that infinite, God comes from time to time, manifests himself. And fourthly, for the sake of the saints, the sages, the saints, the holy people of the world, those highly spiritually developed people of the world, Bhagwan comes to protect and to uplift them. And the message is carried further in a little anecdote which we shall embark upon now. During the time of the invasion of India, Badshah, the emperor, retained the court Pandit Birbal, as his advisor. They were close friends. There was always a nice exchange of banter. And at one point in time, Badshah, the emperor, asked Pandit Birbal, in tongue-in-cheek, he says, Panditji, it seems as though the God of your religion, your conviction, your religious persuasion is a bit weak. And Pandit Birbal upped it, said, well, my emperor, your majesty, how is that so? What led you to think that? And Badshah, the emperor, says, well, why didn't he wave his magic wand from up and above and rectify all that needs to be rectified, as we had mentioned before? And Pandit Birbal, in his studied response, says, well, my emperor, your majesty, you seem to have a point there. Let me ponder upon it. So Pandit Birbal, wise as he was, contrived his little plan. And after a couple of days, very early before dawn, he sent a message to the emperor that he was about to deliver his answer. So Badshah, the emperor, was very excited to hear the response of his Pandit Birbal. And Pandit Birbal's request was that they go out into the lake, the royal lake, in the royal yacht, and have that discussion. Well, the emperor, as is the norm, got together all his able-bodied seamen, as it were, all his very proficient guards, and carried them out on that little expedition as they accompanied Pandit Birbal and himself, the emperor. And the conversation had not long gone into any kind of depth. The day had not yet, dawn had not yet broken. And from a distance, the emperor recognized that the queen's royal yacht was approaching hastily. So it raised some concern in the emperor. And as the queen's yacht drew near, the emperor realized that wrapped in her hand was what appeared to be the only grandson. And that created a lot of concern in the emperor. And Pandit Birbal then interjected and says, Your Majesty, possibly your grandson is not feeling well. That's why his grandmother has brought him along. And probably they want me to jhari. We, the spiritually developed, can make certain incantations and certain maneuvers, and it augurs well for one's health, for health benefits and recovery from illnesses. So this was the answer proffered by Pandit Birbal. So as the yacht drew alongside the emperor's yacht, very carefully the queen attempted to hand over that grandson to the emperor, who would now pass it to Pandit Birbal to Jhari. And as instructed, the little plan that was concocted, she, the queen, let slip that babe from her hand. It fell into the cold waters. Without hesitation, the emperor jumped straight into the waters, recovered that babe, but was furious when he came up, because it was in truth and fact but a baby doll carved out of wood. And the emperor chastised Pandit Birbal. He says, "What is this? What is this little game going on here? I'm furious. You have allowed me to jump into this cold waters for this." And Pandit Birbal interrogated and says, "Your Majesty, why is it that you went into the water?" He says, "Well, I thought it was my grandson, my only grandson." And Pandit Birbal exchanged and says quickly on his feet, he says, "Well, you have all your able-bodied, capable seamen and swimmers and guards here. Why didn't you instruct one of them to go in there? Why you had to go in there?" He says, "Pandit Birbal, what are you asking me? I thought this was my son, my only grandson. I can't send someone to do that, to recover him, to save him. I have to do that myself." And Pandit Birbal quickly interjected, "That's my answer, Your Majesty. That the God I worship, he doesn't send anyone. He himself comes when his devotees are in distress." Smilingly, the emperor accepted the answer. The wise Birbal, having explained through that little anecdote that the reasons for avatars, the reasons why God himself comes from time to time, is because we, his children, and he being the true father, always is at our beck and call if we have unconditional love for him, which is bhakti. We move further as we now look at the second question posed by Mother Parvati on our behalf. And Puni Prabhu kahahu Ram Avtara. Avatar is manifestation. And she asked Bhagwan Shiva that, "Tell me about the actual manifestation when God embodied himself in human form, that time of his entry into the world. Tell me a bit about the details of that entry." Emperor Dasrath and his spouse Kaushilya in a previous incarnation were Manu and Shatrupa. And they had renounced their stewardship and passed it on to their successors within that generation, and went into the forest lands to perform tapasya, because there was this deep urge to have contact with the Supreme Master. As we know from the history of Ramayan, that as Manu and Shatrupa firmed up their austerities, it afforded the opportunity for all the deities to come and ask to satisfy their needs. Among the deities that came were Lord Brahma, the creator, Lord Vishnu, the sustainer, and Bhagwan Shiva himself, the dissolver. And Manu and Shatrupa would not stir from their austerities. They wanted to have the supreme. So it lends to the concept that Bhagwan Vishnu, the sustainer, and the supreme Mahavishnu are not one and the same. The sustainer is but a projection of the Mahavishnu. Hence, thirsting after the presence or the voice of the supreme, they were not moved by the sustainer Vishnu as well as the other gods. And eventually they heard an aerial voice, and the aerial voice promised, that is Mahavishnu, the supreme, promised that he will come into their household. Hence, at the appropriate time, he made his entry into the household of Ayodhya, into the kingdom of Ayodhya, in the actual household of Emperor Dasrath and Kaushilya, who we said before had gained that boon as Manu and Shatrupa. At the point in time when he, the supreme, descended on earth before Kaushilya Mata, the chant says, Bhai Pragat Kripala. Pragat means he manifested himself. He did not come from the womb as all the supreme incarnations bear that out. They manifest themselves. And then the question will be asked, well, how is it that the mother Kaushilya appeared to be pregnant? We discussed that some time ago when we were talking about the entry of Hanuman into the world, the role that Vayudevata, the father of Hanuman, had to play to allow the tummies to appear to be pregnant, when in truth, in fact, in exchange for that, he got part of the kheer from which Hanuman Baba came. So we just touched on that to remind our listening audience. So he manifested himself. And when he did manifest himself, he manifested himself in the huge form, in the adult form. And then Kaushalya Mata says, Ki Jai Shishulila Ati Priya Shila Yah Sukha Param Anupa. She says, but Prabhu, when I asked you to come into my household, I asked you to come as the babe, Ram. And at one point in time, acceding to the request, born of devotion by Kaushalya, the Lord reduced himself into a baby form, cried like a baby, and that produced intense joy for the mother Kaushalya. All along, Bhagwan leaves clues. And as that chant went on, we'll see the word Karari used. Karari literally means Kar was one of the brothers of Ravan, one of the half brothers of Ravan, and Ari means enemy. So Karari, the enemy of Kar, the chant tells us this is at the inception of Shri Ramchandra into the world. He's still a babe, but the declaration is already made there that he is the one who will destroy Kar, and Ravan had acknowledged Kar Dushan Mohisam Balavanta. Ravan had said that whoever destroyed Kar as well as Dushan, the other half brother, that person, and they are equal to me in strength, definitely I will not be able to be victorious over such person. So Ravan too knew that his Waterloo was at hand once he got wind of the fact that Kar was destroyed. Kar and Dushan, be reminded for the history of it, went to avenge the sister or their sister Surpnakha when she was had that encounter with Lakshman and Shri Ramchandraji, when she made advances and was punished for same. They went to avenge that little embarrassing moment. They failed in their attempt. So the Supreme always leaves evidence. When, as Bhagwan Krishna, when he came as a babe, and Yashoda chastised him for stealing the makhan, he says, Maine hi makhan kayo. He says, Mother, I didn't steal any makhan, yet all around his mouth there was evidence of the makhan. So it is with Lord. We just have to have that lens to see his presence. We don't have to look for any outward miracles, as it were. The miracles are right before us, just we have to have the lens, and that lens can be put into place and can be used by these very eyes if we are under the tutelage of an astute guru. And so Kaushalya was ecstatic that she had that boon fulfilled. There it is, the Lord incarnated as her child in her home in Ayodhya. Question number 3. Bala Charita Punika Hahu Udara. So it is going in sequence. So we have why he comes, his actual coming, and then the third question, tell me about Bal Charit, about his youthful exploits. We are just taking snippets of Ramayan here to just bring the point home. We look at the education of Shri Ramchandra. Among his 64 subjects studied, it included the 6 schools of philosophy. And we will just develop, to an extent, one here, Samkhya, the philosophy of Samkhya. Samkhya philosophy was established by Kapil Muni. Now, Kapil Muni, remember, Bhagwan in each round of creation, in each kalpa, will manifest 24 times. 23 has so gone in this round of creation. The 24th Kalki is still to come. The last of the incarnations was Buddha in this round of creation, in this kalpa. And the 5th in those 23 that have gone by was Kapil Muni, and he was the propagator of the Samkhya philosophy. And some of the tenets of Samkhya philosophy, and they are really very relevant to our day-to-day life. It's the analysis of the three gunas, the three forces of nature, which we have spoken a bit on, which we'll elaborate shortly. But one needs to be aware of these three forces of nature. Creation and its 25 divisions, Samkhya philosophy deals with that, and also how one goes about handling the three types of pain, being daihic of the body and the mind. Daihic, sometimes the body and mind is fully functional, but we are roller coasting life, cresting, troughing, cresting, troughing. That is because the grahas have taken position, and then if the grahas are, they are not always negative. So if the grahas are in a propitious position, if the body and mind is sound, then we have the third threat, the third type of pain, bhautic, natural disasters, God forbid, tsunami, hurricanes, floods, etc. So to ward off or to survive these three types of pain, one goes to Samkhya philosophy, propagated by Kapil Muni, and one gets an idea how to straddle the waters of the challenges that life serve us up from time to time. Going on to on the three gunas, Satgun, it's that moment roughly from 4 to 8 a.m. where we are in prayer. Somehow or the other we are in prayer, either physically or the thought of prayer, the thought of positive thoughts are there. But what Kapil Muni has said, that if we remain in that realm, knowing that to pray is good, or being instructed we should pray at that hour, then it does not, we are still victims of that force of nature known as Satgun. Though it is a positive force, but when will we derive that connect with God? When will we arise above that plane where we need to connect with God? It's not just about offering and praying. It's about developing a connect. So Kapil Muni had said that we have to make those concerted efforts, that in the course of prayer there has to be that deep connect, as we say, established. Then there is Rajagun, and if we are not cognizant of Rajagun or the force of Rajagun, then one can succumb. And succumb in what way? In sometimes not a very overt way, in subtly the feelers put out by Rajagun can actually keep us in chain and shackles. And one looks at, we break it down, looks at an employee. Now usually it is said Rajagun is between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. That's the work world, or that's the world of a student. It also will constitute part of the life of a retiree. But we look at, in two of the instances, in the case of employees and students, and if one is not mindful of Rajagun, then one will have their delivery compromised, because the chief product of Rajagun is that we have to deliver. Whether as a student, we have to be successful at our examinations, be on top of our assignments, or whether as an employee, where whatever is allotted to us and entrusted upon us, we ought to deliver. And that delivery, if we are not vigilant about Rajagun, we can compromise that delivery. So as an employee, the standards can be circumvented and put aside at the sake of just delivering. And that is why when one is vigilant and mindful about Rajagun, one takes a holistic approach to that very delivery, to make sure in delivering we don't climb on the back of our fellow worker. We don't make demeaning statements, baseless statements, to put them down so we'll rise in the eyes of the supervisor and of management. So this is why we have to be wary of Rajagun. As far as the student has his or her challenges, because there is a tendency in the education system now not to examine but to test people. So you find exams are being set. There might be 4 classes across the board by 4 different lecturers or 4 different tutors, and one is given the task of setting the examination, and it is vetted without the input of the others. Many times this happens, and the children the students may not have been tutored in a particular topic. Even if they were tutored in that topic, sometimes lecturers and teachers have their preferences to the approach of an answer, and so if they don't do that approach, having not been having not been exposed to that person who said the examination, they find themselves at a disadvantage. So Rajugun, we spoke, and I'll remind how the student handles that. Yet another challenge of the student under Rajugun. Sometimes group projects are given, and it is one student who will carry the load. And the system ought to be in place that where if one student is doing the work, they should be marked differently from those who piggyback or wasn't doing necessary work. So these are the disadvantages of a student if Rajugun is allowed to go unchecked. And that is why we have Trikalsan here. That is why the student is instructed to whom they should pray. And in praying, understand what the depth of that prayer is to help one to fortify that student to handle these challenges that pose themselves inadvertently from time to time, but which they have to deal with and deal with alone. And then we look at Tamagun, which roughly occurs between 8 p.m. and 4 a.m., where there's a tendency for substance abuse, gambling, vices, etc. And one has to be wary of this force of nature, Tamagun. One has to take the necessary steps to fortify oneself. The human being has got to understand that we are not like a Bodhi plant. A Bodhi plant or any such plants, you have to set up either dry bamboo or you run some wires so that it can support, and so the Bodhi will produce. We don't need a prop. Our lump we don't need. This is the human. The human being is self-sufficient. It has capacity. It has potential to be self-sufficient. So we don't need a prop of substance abuse, etc. About the very Bal Charita of Shri Ramchandra, not only is education, we touch on yet another facet of it. Shishupanate parihare no sangu kabahunaki no mora manabhangu mai prabhu kripa riti je joi hare khel jitavahi mohi. Shishupan, Bharat made this declaration. Bharat says, as far as he could recall in his childhood play with Shri Ramchandra, no manabhangu, there was not a time when Shri Ramchandra seemed to be agitated at mind, even during play. And it so often happens in play, that happens with children. Bharat went on further. He says, sometimes I would notice, like if there was a game of marbles, Shri Ramchandra ji, if after winning game after game, he will purposely lose Jitavahi for the sake of I will be able to savor the victory if it is in one game. That is the master. That is the child Ram that I knew, who is now grown. That was how Shri Ramchandra went about. And we draw the ruler and the parallel today. For the sake of 1 foot of land, literally 1 foot of land. We have to reach to the highest court of the land to bring up our kith and kin, to bring them to justice as we see, as that's how we deem it. When if we profess to be Hindus, we profess to follow the tenets and the teachings and the examples of the Supreme Shri Ramchandra, where he will give up for the sake of the comfort of others, like his brother Bharat, then we ought to emulate that pattern of the Lord. And, there must be more civil ways of settling such differences, because, mind you, it's not about going to the court and winning and losing. It creates an irreparable cleft in a generation, which is nowhere near what Sanatana Dharma teaches. So once again, we thank you for sitting in satsang with us, and next week we will continue our little sojourn on the 13 questions posed, which constitute the answers which constitute Ramayan. In the interim, by the grace of Bhagwan, may one have a safe, productive and protected week. Sitaram.